All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to give you a market update for the month of June. Today is July 9th. Numbers came out on July 1st, but I was on vacation all last week and just got back in the office today. So first thing I thought I'd do is give you a market update. I'm going to show you each county, the median sale price of each county for the month of June compared to this time last year. So really from 2025 to 2024. I'm also going to do the average day the average days on market and the average sold days. So there's a difference there. It's one thing to get your house under contract. It's another thing to get the house sold. So I'm going to give you that spread between how long the house has to be on the market and then everything that has to be done for it to close. So guys, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in Maine and you want to know some more information about the market, this episode is going to be for you. Grab your favorite lemonade, grab your favorite cocktail, make sure it's icy cold because we're going to get after it right now. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Scott Teeb. I'm a broker, realtor, and investor with eXp Realty. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on myself. If you don't know who I am, just check out some of the other episodes on this channel. And if you've already subscribed, then you know who I am. But really, I want to really get into the numbers and making this video as short as possible, just to give you as much information as I can to help you stay educated on what's going on in the market, in the real estate market here in Maine. So again, these numbers are from June of last month of 2025. And right now I'm going to throw up on my screen a chart. And that chart is going to show you what the median sale price is for houses per single family homes only. And we're not talking condos, trailers, investment properties, multifamily properties, commercial properties, just single family homes. From what the median sale price is so far in 2025 compared to what it was last year in 2024. So again, thrown up on the screen right now, guys, you're going to see a bar chart. The red chart is the red lines are 2025 and the blue are 2024. And I sorted it by growth, like from the lowest price to the highest price. So obviously, like it's always been, since I've been in real estate anyways, Cumberland County has always been the highest priced, has the highest priced homes in the state. This is where Portland is. This is South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Scarborough, Westbrook, Falmouth, right around that kind of Portland area. That's kind of like the flagship area of Maine. That's where most of the population lives in southern Maine. And obviously, you know, it makes sense. Even though prices are high, the median sale price for a house in June of 2025 was $575,000. This is compared to $550,000 about this time last year. Again, this is median, guys, which means half the houses are more and half the houses are less. So kind of right in the middle. But if you look at this chart, you'll see that what I really wanted to focus on is like the growth rate. Is the market slowing? It is slowing a little bit, but it's not slowing. It's still appreciating in Maine. And as an average, like Cumberland County, the county I just talked about, grew by 4.55%. from last year to this year. Franklin County grew by 11.27%. So where's Franklin County? If you're not from Maine, that's kind of north and west of York County, Cumberland County. It's up by Sunday River Mountain. It's kind of the west part of above Oxford. You have Farmington and some other towns up there, Jay, Wilton. That's Franklin County. And then Knox County stayed flat. Knox County's right on the coast. Headed up down east, headed up from Portland all the way up to Bar Harbor. You're going to cross through Knox County. So that stayed flat. 450 last year, 450 this year. Oxford County only grew by 2.84%. Again, a little west, some favorable pricing in houses out there. Only grew by 2.84% from 315,000 to 324,000. And then on average, guys, the average growth rate in Maine across the entire state, some counties a little bit more, some counties a little bit less, is roughly 6.25%. That's how much properties on general in Maine have been appreciating over the last year. This is a trend, right? The Maine market is still appreciating. So I want to put it to you a different way. Let's say you're renting right now because you're sitting on the sidelines. You want to wait till one of two things happens. You either want to wait till interest rates come down, which I believe they're going to. I know the administration is really putting pressure on the feds, and maybe trying to replace the chairman there. But they'll eventually come down. But I don't believe the market, the housing prices, is going to come down. So, as an example, I just want to throw this out to you guys. Let's say you're living in Southern Maine and you pay $2,000 a month for rent, or $24,000 a year. Well, at a 6.25% return, which is the average of the growth rate across the entire state of all single-family homes in all counties blended together, you're giving your landlord about $1,500 extra a year. And to really put things in another perspective, I live in York County. Well, that market grew by 6.35% last year. So my house was assessed, not appraised, was assessed at something like 400 and some odd. I think it was 455,000. It's appraised a lot higher than that, but it assessed at that. Just on the assessed value, my wife and I gained $33,486 just by owning a home in York County. Well, for that matter, guys, owning a home anywhere. That is why one of the biggest benefits to financial freedom is home ownership. And I do understand it's tough right now for some of you younger folks to try to get in homes because things are so pricey. Stick around. I'm going to give you 5 thoughts and tips from a buyer and 5 thoughts and tips from a seller on this market and what you can do. So this first chart I was just showing you was the median sale price of homes across the state. Now I'm going to throw up onto the screen the sold days on market, or the days on market, right? How long houses are sitting on the market and what the increase is. So what does that mean? That means, let's say you're a seller and you're going to contract with a broker such as me or my team or a realtor, anybody, and you're going to put your house on the market. Assuming there's a bunch of things it's going to assume. It's priced right, it's in good shape, it's ready to go, curbside appeal. If you want more information on that, look at some of my other videos. I just did a video on the 5 mistakes sellers make. But let's say you're going to put your house on the market. If you're in York County, you're going to expect that house to be on the market for about 30 days. Until you get a contract. That's average days on market from 20. It went from 27 last year to 30 this year. Cumberland County, which is the most expensive county, went from 21 to 25. Penobscot County went from 34 to 43, and Kennebec County went from 29 to 33. Those are the lowest, other than Lincoln, a little outliner there on the way to Bar Harbor. Those are the lowest days on market in the state. And it makes sense. That's where the populace is. You got York, Cumberland, Kennebec, which is Augusta, and Penobscot, which is Bangor. What is interesting is Androscoggin is kind of higher, and that's where you got Lewiston, Auburn. And then if you really look at this chart, if you look at those big peaks, like again, red is 2025 and blue is 2024, you'll see Washington and Aroostook County have the highest days on market. Washington going from 83 to 90 and Aroostook going from 59 to 77. Makes sense. Washington County is the furthest county east before you get into Canada. There's not a lot going on in Washington County. It's actually, I believe, one of the poorest counties in the state of Maine. And then you got Aroostook way up, all the way up at the top of the state, the largest county east of the Mississippi, and the largest county that we call the county. It's actually called the county in Maine. I don't spend a lot of time up there unless I'm fishing, hunting, really fishing, hunting, or camping. But other than that, it's a logging kind of county, potatoes, very small industry, a little bit small shops up there. But it makes sense that things would stay on the market longer up there as is less populous. So just taking into account, guys, when you're putting your house on the market, how long it'll take to get a bona fide contract. Now, that's the average, guys. There's, if your house is just immaculate and it's maybe priced a little bit lower than the market, you'll get in Southern Maine especially, you get offers immediately. And then this last chart I'm going to show you is days to close by county. So what does that mean? So there's days on market. In other words, you put your house on the market and you get it under contract, right? So you're taking it off the market because you're working with a potential buyer, or you're a buyer and the seller's taking the house off the market while they're working with you, going through the process to close on their home or for you to buy their home, right? Switch keys, essentially. If you look at this chart, some things that stand out is in Southern Maine, it takes about, what's that chart say? It says 65 days. Think about this. So you're going to put your house in the market. 65 days later, you're going to be handing keys to somebody. That's the average in Cumberland County right now in 2025. York County, it's 73 days. Now, these numbers are mostly up. York County, it went down 77 to 73, but Cumberland went from 62 last year to 65 now. You look at some of these other outlying counties, like I said, the ones that have the highest days on market would make sense that they would have the longest close times. Washington, 131 days. So if you're going to sell a house in Washington County, you'll expect, if the house is under contract and sold, it'll take you about 4 months or 4.5 months, 131 days to go to hand the keys over to the new buyer. Piscataqua County, 101 days. Hancock County, this is up by Bar Harbor, higher priced homes, 106 days. Franklin County, 101 days. If I look at all these counties, Androscoggin went down from 63 days to 61, Lewiston, Auburn area. But every other county other than York went from 77 to 73. Every other county went up in terms of days to hand the keys over, to switch keys, to close on your property. The market is slowing. Doesn't mean prices are coming down, because they're not coming down. They're still appreciating. They're just not appreciating as fast as they were during the COVID heyday. So just some information for you guys, just so you understand kind of what's going on in the Maine market here in 2025 and for June. Some key takeaways I want to just leave you with these charts. All counties have showed an increase in median sales from 2024 to 2025, except if you go back to that chart, Knox County, which actually stayed flat, 450,000 last year, 450,000 this year. Cumberland and York counties continue to lead the pricing, with York now up over 500, close to 525, starting to catch up to Cumberland County. Again, York County, the county that I live in, the first county you come into when you're driving from New Hampshire into the state of Maine. And again, Aroostook and Washington counties remain the most affordable. They're also the longest sales cycles to buy a house, but they're the most affordable counties. Not a lot going on up there, probably one of the reasons why they're most affordable. Some notable year-over-year jumpings in terms of percentage of growth. Franklin increased 11.3% in the last year, or $31,000. Lincoln increased 10.3%, $45,000. And Hancock increased 6.25%, $25,000 over what the median sale price of a house was last year. All right, guys. Lastly, I'm going to give you 5 actionable tips for buyers and sellers. If you're a buyer right now and you're in the game and you're looking to buy a house, here's 5 tips that I recommend that you do for looking for a home. Number 1, you got to be patient. Homes are sitting a little longer. With the days on market increasing, especially in counties like Aroostook and Piscataqua, buyers will have more time to be more informed and maybe be able to negotiate better deals, right? Target slower markets for better deals, right? I know, especially here in Southern Maine, everybody wants to live along the coast. But if you can't afford to live on the coast, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get in the game. Get in the game, and then eventually you'll be able to get to the coast if you get in the game and start playing that equity where you're growing some equity in your property. My daughter, my son-in-law, and my 3 grandchildren are going through this right now. I helped them buy a property out in Hiram, which is about an hour from us. Kind of a long drive, but they had to get in the game. Their property is appreciating now. And I think within a couple, 2-3 years, they'll be able to afford closer to the coast where we live. But target slow markets, again, Washington, Piscataqua, Somerset, even further west. If you want to stay in southern Maine or down along southern Maine, look further west. Be an hour away from the coast instead of, 20 minutes. It'll give you more leverage, especially if you're comfortable with not having to be right on the coast for the time being. And understand your closing time. Days to close are increasing in several areas, Franklin, Washington being one of them, as an example. So build in extra time for your financing and for moving, right? Things are taking a little bit longer right now because the market is slower and houses are going under contract. They're staying on the market longer. So pay attention to that when you're going through your financing and, you're going to pay for a moving company or whatever. Last thing you want is for a moving van to show up if you're not doing it yourself and you haven't closed on the house yet. And then focus on affordability beyond pricing. Again, like I just said with my daughter, you really, when you're first starting out, when you're a home buyer, you should really focus on affordability. Don't be house poor, right? The kind of rule of thought is 38 to 40% of your disposable income should go to housing. Now, I get houses are a little more expensive right now. You can even go up to 50%, right? But don't get, even if you're pre-approved at a higher price. I said this in another video that you can look back at. 5 mistakes buyers make. If you're approved at 500, but it's going to strap you like you're going to be house poor, don't look at a house for $500,000. Look at a house for $450 or $425. They're out there, guys. They just may not be in the exact location that you want. So be comfortable with looking for affordability, and then avoid overbidding in the slower markets, right? I just did a video the other day, 82.9%. It was only for York County. I think it was 82.9% of all homes that sold this year in York County, up until that time I did that video, sold for less than the original asking price. Just keep that in mind. That being said, you don't have to feel pressure, but if you are in York and Cumberland counties, it's very hard to find deals that are not selling it for asking price. You may find a few, there may be a few out there, but most homes in York and Cumberland County, southern Maine, are definitely going for asking price, assuming they're priced right. So take those tips for what they're worth, guys. This is free information, so you know what you get when you get free information. All I can tell you guys is I've been doing this for quite a while. It's all I do. And if you want to know more, then subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed. Tap that bell to be notified, and reach out to me. Send me a comment. Send me a message. I got a call tonight with a gentleman who just is not ready yet, but thinks I know the market pretty well, and I do. And he just wants to have a chat for 30 minutes about what his strategy should be as he looks to buy probably in the next year. All right, let's look at the actionable tips for sellers. And again, I just did a video, guys, on the 5 mistakes I say sellers make. And again, I made this content and got all this data after I made that video. But this content really justifies and really edifies what I just put out not too long ago. And that is price strategically, not emotionally. I get it. If you've lived in your house like I have, you think it might be worth more than it is, and it could be. But median sale prices in most counties, our homes are sitting longer. Pricing too high risks stale properties. The last thing you want is the perception that your property is stale, because if you get that, it's going to get harder and harder to get more buyers. Competitive prices drive interest and urgency, and instead of having, as I said this in one of my videos, buyers reaching for your price that they may not be able to afford and start picking apart the house on why it's not worth what they think it might be, even though you're asking that. You want buyers that are like, I want to live here. I'm going to reach for the price because it's a great price. It's worth it. And I know from a competitive standpoint, it's priced strategically, not emotionally. Again, invest in pre-list inspections, right? I also said this, right? You don't want any surprises, right? And you don't want the buyers to bring you any surprises. So I think it's very important to make sure you do a pre-inspection on your house. Have your listing agent or, work out a deal with them where you can have a pre-inspection done. We do this all the time with our clients. And just to understand what some of the challenges may be, if there are any, and how do you mitigate and negotiate those during the buying process when you find a buyer if you don't fix and repair those. So it goes a long ways to building transparency and trust with buyers. Be ready for longer closing processes. Days to closing has increased in every county. Set realistic expectations with buyers and stay on top of the paperwork to avoid further delays. You should have if you're selling your house with a realtor, they should be able to stay on top of this with you. I know when I have houses that are in the pending status going to close, there is a lot of people that I'm talking to on a daily and weekly basis to make sure everything's staying in line. Everybody from the lender to the title company, to the inspections, to the contractors, if there's anything that has to be done to get the house ready once it goes under contract, to the closing company, right? To making sure everything's lined. There's this number out there, I can't remember. I think it was like 38 or 40 touch points you make in the closing process, dealing with all the different people. That's one of the benefits of hiring a realtor, right? They deal with that. But again, that realtor's got to be experienced. They deal with that as a home seller, things you're not accustomed to dealing with all the time. It's everything from taxes to fuel prorations to home warranties, all that stuff. So there's a lot that goes in there, guys. But a pre-inspection will go a long way to getting your house sold quickly, assuming it's priced right. And again, being ready for longer closing process. Use market data to justify your ask. I cannot kind of couples on with number one. Markets don't lie. Numbers don't lie as long as they're interpreted correctly. So use market data and make sure your realtors, your agents, whoever's listing your houses, if it's not us, and even if it is us, right? Ask them where they're getting the data from and how they're getting it. They should be able to sit down with you and explain to you, here's what's going on in the market. Here's why I think your house is worth more or less. And you guys can have that debate if you need to have that debate up front before you put your house on the market. So everybody is 100% transparent in what's going to go on with this property. The last thing you want as a seller is to be at odds with your listing agent thinking the house is worth more and it may not get sold and it sits on the market longer and then you get stale prices and you don't want your listing agents, and most listing agents aren't going to do this. I told you so, but they do this for a reason, and if they have experience, they probably have a pretty good understanding of what's going on in the market. So just take their advice as much as possible and then try to poke holes in it if you need to. If you think what they're asking for, what they think your house is worth and what you think it is worth is less, try to justify why it's worth more and explain to them why you think it is. And they should be able to, again, present the numbers. So if a buyer comes, they can present those numbers to them. And then lastly, guys, as a seller, stay flexible on terms. Buyers are taking longer and becoming more selective. There's more and more data out there every day. AI is kind of, it's so much easier to find houses and to look up houses and determine what a house is worth now than it's ever been. So you got to stay flexible. Be open to contingencies like inspections and flexible closing dates. At the end of the day, you want to sell your house, you want to hand over your keys. It's one of the largest transactions you're going to make in your lifetime. Be flexible. Don't be rigid. Work with the buyers. Buyers are having more options now, so just be cognizant of that, guys. All right. If you like this data, if you like this information, you're liking what you hear, guys, again, subscribe to my channel. Even if you don't subscribe, I created this channel just to keep you guys all informed on a weekly, monthly basis. I do these micro reports every month, and then in between the month, I sprinkle different things in. But if you like what you hear, reach out to us. Send us comments, keep going, that you like what you're hearing, and we'll continue to will continue to present this content and these concepts to you to help you stay informed on this market. And if anybody's out there looking to buy, sell, or invest, love to have a call with you. All right, guys, take care. Scott Tebow over and out. Bye-bye.